CIA flipped out behind the scenes when Bush said U.S. would ban torture. Do you know which website this came from? Huffington Post. Okay, because it says data text. It's like, how can you... Anyway, it's George W. Bush, June 26th, 2003. It was the UN International Day in support of victims of torture. And George W. Bush gave a speech. It was not a speech? Oh, it was a comment in a press conference? Uh-huh. Okay, well, here's what George W. Bush had to say.
If there is somebody captured, and it looks like there may be, I expect those people to be treated humanely. I expect them to be treated, the POWs, I expect to be treated humanely. And just like we're treating the prisoners that we have captured humanely. If not, the people who mistreat the prisoners will be treated as war criminals.
Right. He was saying this as he was completing the 186th, I think, waterboarding of KSM of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. What he said on the International Day in support of victims of torture, he said, torture anywhere is an affront to human dignity everywhere. The United States is committed to the worldwide elimination of torture, and we are leading this fight by example. I call on all governments to join with the United States and the community of law-abiding nations in prohibiting, investigating, and prosecuting all acts of torture. This is George W. Bush saying this while he knew that he was torturing people. Now, the reason I flipped to that moment is that it's the exact antithesis, the exact opposite of what Franklin Roosevelt was working for when we were fighting with the Nazis. I mean, before then and through that time, he said, we want to have a world founded on 4 essential freedoms. He said the first is the freedom of speech and expression. This is a speech he gave, 74 years ago today. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way, anywhere, everywhere in the world. The third is a freedom from want. The fourth is freedom from fear. And here's where it gets really interesting. Freedom from fear. I mean, keep in mind, this is the guy who's leading the free world in a world war against the fascists in Germany and in Japan. And listen to this. This is clip number 5, Shane. Listen to what he says freedom from fear means.
The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armament to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world.
He was calling for universal disarmament. The end of war. I mean, it's truly astonishing. And then he went on to say, and this is clip number 6. He went on to say, I'm not just. These are not just happy words. Here he is.
That is no vision of a distant millennium. It is a definite basis for a kind of world attainable in our own time and generation. That kind of world is the very antithesis of the so-called new order of tyranny which the dictators seek to create with the crash of a bomb.
It's absolutely brilliant. This clip number 8. This again the speech that Franklin Roosevelt gave 74 years ago today. He talks since the beginning of our American history, we've been engaged in change, in a perpetual peaceful revolution. This is what Jefferson was, over and over and over again said his vision of America is that we would constantly be in a state of change, of revolution. In fact, Jefferson suggested every 19 years we should re-examine the Constitution. Here's FDR on that.
Since the beginning of our American history, we have been engaged in change, in a perpetual, peaceful revolution, a revolution which goes on steadily, quietly adjusting itself to changing conditions without the concentration camp or the quicklime in the ditch. The world order which we seek is the cooperation of free countries working together in a friendly, civilized society.
Now, contrast that with George W. Bush cutting deals with nations that were desperate to get our money and our approval, like Poland, for example, that was just, absolutely in a disaster in the early 2000s economically. I mean, they're basically a developing country as a consequence of having been a Soviet satellite all those years, where he went to them and said, if you will take these prisoners from Iraq and Afghanistan, mostly Iraq, if you will take these prisoners and torture them for us and tell us what they have to say, we will give you goodies. And then on the other side of his mouth, George W. Bush is saying we should prosecute people who commit torture. Play that clip again of Bush. We've got time.
If there is somebody captured, and it looks like there may be, I expect those people to be treated humanely. I expect them to be treated, the POWs, I expect to be treated humanely. And just like we're treating the prisoners that we have captured humanely. If not, the people who mistreat the prisoners will be treated as war criminals.
Right. War criminals, people who shackle prisoners naked to a cold floor until they die. People who electroshock them. People who crush the testicles of their children in front of them. Yes, we did those things. People who threaten to rape their wives and daughters in front of them. People who lead them around, it's amazing. It's starting to sound like torture porn. I'm going to stop there. Such a contrast from FDR to
You're
GWB.
listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
The Bush presidency was not only not the FDR presidency, it was the opposite of the FDR presidency.